Hey everyone.
Hey everybody.
Happy Monday.
Welcome to Sermon Break.
Welcome to Sermon Break. We're so excited to chat about the message today and talk about it a little bit. Pastor Stephen has been back in the pulpit, and every week I feel like his messages are they're just so good.
Yeah, it's been a lot of energy coming out of the summer break.
Yes.
It's been really good.
Yes. Breaking the bondage of false belief is what we're talking about today. That was his sermon title. Did anybody else pick up that he kind of gave two titles? This is what we were talking about.
I feel like lately you could pick, like if you were discerning, you could pick a bunch of titles.
Yes,
yeah.
You really could.
Yeah.
I don't know. He really, when he said that, I'm like, okay, I feel like this is very like practical and very like he's going to teach us something today. So it was a great message. Good to see all of you on here. Hi, Wonder. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Camille. Hi, Anna. Good to have all of you. And I'm excited to hear your highlights from the message. But before we jump in, we always start with a little icebreaker. So Matt, I want to know, you're such like a science guy. And so
Matt
like
White, the science guy.
You're
trademark.
Yes. And you're so like, I don't know, just into like numbers and things.
Oh.
So I feel like, what is something that you would rate a 10 out of 10? Because this is what Pastor even talked about in the beginning, right? He said that your relationship with God, it's always like a 10 out of 10. Like sometimes we might feel like, oh, we're like at a 2 with God. But really, he's always with us. So he's a 10 out of 10. So what's something kind of practical? Okay. And put it in the chat too, like a restaurant
like
or
your
like
review.
A movie.
What's your 10 out of 10 would recommend?
Yes.
With no caveats.
Yes.
Okay.
What is yours?
I got a few. I also would say that the sciencey part of me says that 10 out of 10 is never really a thing.
It's never really a thing?
So that's the
Why
catch
is it not
there.
a thing?
Because it's like the idea of perfection is always just you're going to keep chasing.
Right.
You know, there's always like a little thing.
Nothing can ever be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The more time you spend with it, maybe you're like, okay, well, maybe I'd add more salt.
Right.
Or make that a second longer. Anyways.
Yeah, true.
That's a hard question. I feel like 10 out of 10 though. I don't know. I will say like fountain pen wise.
Okay.
Which is where I really
Matt
do
is
have
a big
like
pen
heavy
collector.
recommendations. I will give Robert Oster Inks from Australia a 10 out of 10. Never been disappointed.
I have a gift card to your pen store.
There you
go.
So
maybe that's what I need.
Yep.
That's what I need. Matt has like an amazing pen collection and knows everything you ever need to know about pens. So I trust your judgment.
Yeah, when people say they're into pens, and I say
no, you're not.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different.
Okay,
What's
mine's
yours?
not a pen. Mine would have to be food. That's where I default.
Like
to
a dish.
Yes, and you're going to disagree with this probably.
It's your rating.
Honestly, pizza libretto is my favorite pizza. They never go wrong for me. 10 out of 10 every time. It's the best pizza that I've ever had downtown Toronto.
So imagine you're like leaving a Yelp review.
Yes.
And you say 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. What's your order? What do you recommend they order?
Just your norm. Well, I have to eat gluten-free, so it's not as good. But
That's
just
okay.
your normal like wood fire pizza. You cannot go wrong. Just pepperoni and cheese.
Pepperoni and cheese.
That's it.
Perfect.
I'm simple, but 10 out of 10 every time. They make it perfect, and I can't find pizza like that anywhere.
That's good.
So that's definitely my rating.
Wonder's giving Mandarin a 10 out of 10.
I feel like Wonder Steven would agree with you. He really likes Mandarin. He really, really does. Okay, well, let's jump in. We have a little clip for you. Put your sermon takeaway in the chat, and then we'll come back and talk about ours too. So check this out.
Today is the day for you to put the bull on the altar. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying online? Touch your neighbor, say, put the bull on the altar. Every lie you've believed, every stronghold you've accepted, every false god you've worshiped, put the bull on the altar. As long as we keep building altars to things that we ought to let die, we will be in covenant with God, but be in captivity in life. You have got to put the bull on the altar. I mean, they're playing slow music behind me, but I feel like I'm really preaching. Every time the devil lies to you, put that bull on the altar. Every time he tells you you're insignificant because you're not famous, put that bull on the altar. Every time he starts trying to tell you an addict is all you'll ever be, put that bull on the altar. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Put that bull on the altar.
So this clip definitely drove his message home for me. I felt like it all kind of came together near the end. So when I was looking through my notes and kind of prepping for this, I was really thinking about how my biggest thing is like put that bull on the altar. But before that, and I think someone just said it in the chat too, no breakup, no breakthrough. That was you, Wonder. That was my highlight. I've definitely in my life experienced breakthrough after I've broken up with a false belief. So one for me that's pretty personal is sometimes I used to have this belief of things of like I can't cope, like or I can't do this, and it's like this like can't statement, and I never actually realized that that's a belief. And the more that I started saying that to myself, like, oh, I can't do this, and I'm thinking about things in motherhood, like, and you know too, you're a dad, like I'm like, oh, I can't do this, I can't put her to bed, I can't I'm not gonna have enough energy to do this. And when I learned that, I realized, no, that's a false belief. I actually can do it. God did equip me to do it. He called me to do this. I can. So much changed for me. I felt so much more like authority, because I would hear that thought in my head. And then I'd say, no, let's challenge this right now. Let's just pretend that you can and go against that belief. And then I found so many things just got so much easier, and I felt so much more confident. So when he was talking about that, I started thinking about, okay, that was one belief that I've kind of worked through and gone through. I'm sure there's more. So I've been thinking about it, today of, okay, what's another maybe belief that I'm still holding on to that God doesn't want me to have? And maybe it's fear, maybe it's anxiety. And how can I break up with that too? Because that's not the freedom that God promises, and that's not God's character.
Yeah, that's really good. I love it because the symbolism this pastor was talking about, where you put the bull on the altar. Yes. It's like the bull's the mascot for that broken belief or the wrong belief, right? And so it's like so many times you hear a message like this, and I think Pastor you said it practical earlier, and I think that's perfect because it's like a response. And so like the lies are still going to come. Yeah. Like nothing, like I don't know how to stop them. Like it doesn't matter how good I am today. Like Pastor was saying, I could be a 10 today and I'm on a 2 tomorrow. Right. It's like a mechanism to respond to that lie. And okay, and like the more you do it, the more you like recognize that, but then also have the ability to respond and like put a little, Pastor's talked about this before, but like a gap between like what comes in before you act on it. So I think, even just like the symbolism of making an offering, like I'm going to give it to God, the smoke goes up to him. Like that's all present in that. That's good. It's really good.
What was yours?
It's funny. We saw, my family and I went to see Inside Out 2 on Saturday.
I was so debating bringing Grace yesterday.
It's a lot to bring a 3-year-old to the movies.
It's a lot, right?
That's
why I'm not sure if I'm ready. I don't know if I can cope with that one.
So anyways, there's this, the whole point is that the girl in the story is getting older, and these memories are becoming beliefs. That's like a huge part of that movie. Yeah. It's such an interesting, I swear that movie's not for children, it's for adults.
I need to see this.
You should go see it. And anyways, it was interesting to be thinking about beliefs so much last night at dinner and stuff. We were chit-chatting about it, and then Pastor preaches this yesterday or 2 nights ago. I think for me, it's funny, my e-group last week, we ended up in a whole discussion about peace and trying to identify peace. And Pastor said something really small that I've often found, like the last little while, Pastor's been putting words to something that I'm trying hard to describe. And the big one on this message was, I was trying to describe to my e-group feeling peace in the hard work. Because I think there's like this prevailing opinion that no, peace is at a sense of stillness and rest. But I was really trying, and I've experienced it where things can be hectic and busy and crazy, but I still experience the closeness, like the presence is still with me. So Pastor was talking about how when, God comes near, sometimes your first response is fear. Love that, because it's like a real thing. Yeah. But then the other thing is he's talking about having the storm peace. So it was almost like the imagery of the peace that I'm looking for is the soft pillow on the ship during the storm. Yeah. And just imagining Jesus got like a down pillow curled up on the boat. But I think that's my big takeaway that I'm sitting with after that.
That's so good. I feel like, you're right. So many times we feel like we're going to be at peace when like everything's perfect or like we have so much downtime. But as I've gotten older, I don't think God wants that for us. Like he wants to use us in a big way. He wants us to pour out, but he wants us to learn how to rest in his peace, like you're saying. Like
rest on the way.
Yeah, rest on the way, and to rest in the fact that he is with you, he is helping you, and the things that you have to do, like you're called to them, you're anointed for that. That's what Pastor was talking about last week, right? And we were connecting and saying that's like that's a great point. If we can keep that perspective that we're anointed, we have all the ability to do everything on our to-do list.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry that we're not going to get it done, because if God called us to, it's his work anyways. He's going to figure it out.
You think about yourself.
Yeah.
If you have someone who you rely on, you don't give them one thing and then you're like, thanks.
Yeah.
You give them more.
Right. Yes.
Right. So if I want to be someone that God relies on and participate in the blessing, participate in the provision, all those things.
Yeah.
He's going to ask me to do more, not less.
Yes.
And it's finding the peace when my hands aren't at rest.
Right.
I don't know.
And the more that you can do that, the more that, I don't know, that God will, like you said, give you more, and you'll be able to, you become stronger, you become more resilient. And that's what we want, right? I think Pastor was even talking about this importance of who are you always becoming. Right. And not just kind of staying the same. You always want to be growing.
Yeah. It's a tool, right?
It's a tool.
Responding.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I don't know. It was a great message. It's really challenged me to put things. It's challenged me to put different things on the altar, but kind of my action step for all of you today, and something that I'm doing, which hopefully will encourage you to, is just reprioritizing your priorities, right? He said, when you care about the things that God cares about, I don't know if you have the exact quote in your notes, but it was so good. And he was just talking about this importance of, when you care about the same things that God does, he will take care of the rest. So for me, reprioritizing myself looks like, okay, how am I creating margin in my day to connect with God, making sure that's regularly happening, and how am I really looking at kind of everything I have in my day, and what am I thinking about it? What's my belief about it? Am I believing that I can do this, or am I believing already that I can't? Am I believing that I'm going to have peace, or am I believing that I'm going to be frantic? So I'm kind of looking at all my priorities and figuring out what is my belief about them, and how does God see it? Is my perspective and my heart and my mind aligned with God's?
That's really good. The line I wrote down was, God's peace without God's priorities is always temporary.
Yeah.
And that's something you feel all the time, where you say to someone, "Oh, I'm not in a season of peace," or whatever the opposite of peace is, discontent. I'm not sure, but like it's sort of all like keep coming back to those seasons.
Yeah.
I think the priorities are at the heart of that.
Yeah.
Living the way God wants us to live is at the core of what he wants for us.
Yeah.
Not like where we're going so much as who we become on the way. Yeah.
And I do feel like so much is about, like, the more that you love God and the more that you prioritize just being with him, so much flows from that. Like, if that's not your foundation of like, oh, I love God, I want to have my, like, a solid thing with him, everything else is going to be so much harder. You're not going to get the peace.
Yeah.
Because that's not your main priority. So for me, it's really focusing on, okay, how can I make sure that I'm loving God first?
Yeah. One of the biggest thing I look for in leaders is, are you spirit led?
Yeah.
That's full stop.
Right.
That's it.
Because once you have that heart posture, so much can flow from
100%.
that. So it was an amazing message. We had a great weekend.
Yeah, it was a big weekend.
We didn't even shout out that we celebrated 1 year of Elevation Toronto East. Put some like celebration emojis in the chat.
Some fire.
Because
Toronto East 1 year.
Toronto East 1 year. I remember thinking about this even when we like first launched, and to think about 1 year as an actual campus.
You want to talk about finding peace in the hard work.
Yeah.
1 year at Toronto East. Yeah.
1 year at Toronto East, building this from the ground up. And it's been, for me, one of my highlights was definitely just seeing these volunteers like really have their hearts in building the church and showing up every single week, faithful, consistent, even if we didn't have very many people sometimes, even though the teardown was hard, they honestly volunteer with so much joy. Yeah. And when I go there, I get so fueled up because of how fired up they are. So I don't know if you have a highlight of Toronto East.
It's hard to pick one. I think baptisms are always a highlight for me. Like Richie's baptism was big, but even like some of the first baptisms we did out there. And just I love seeing the campus community, like not just the volunteers, but the wider, like the guests in the room is developing its own sense out there when you see the two campuses. So it's really cool to see that sort of grow, and excited to see what comes for it.
Me too.
Next year.
Yeah. And we've done like all these great events. Recently we had like a picnic in the park. I think that was one of my favorites.
And I mean, even yesterday,
yes,
a lot of people stayed to celebrate afterwards. Like it's real. Like it's a great little community.
It is. Yeah. We had so many people came out for it. So it was such a great weekend. But I'm also really excited because next week we're starting our brand new eGroups curriculum. Oof. And it's a 6-week study from Holly. You're going to be following us on social media, of course, and you'll be seeing kind of little teasers about what to expect. But it's called Highlights. And every single week, Holly's going to be doing a little video in the groups and talking about her highlights from the sermon. So very similar to kind of what we're doing, but I'm excited to hear directly from her and to watch it with our group. So something fun that we're going to do is we're going to be transitioning to Instagram Live, and every single week we're going to put up different highlights from people at the church, different volunteers, still from us as well, about what's sticking, because we really want our church to learn just how to even find highlights from the sermon. Like, how do you actually take a point that pastor preached and how do you actually apply it? Because it's great to hear something, but if you don't actually do something,
what's the point?
What's the point? You're not going to grow. You're not going to change. So that's something new that we're going to be starting. So we won't be on here next week. We're going to be on Instagram Live. So make sure you tune in Monday at noon. We're going to try it out for the 6-week study, fully aligned with our eGroups ministry. And I'm really excited about it. So make sure an action step for you too is also to be following us on Instagram. Set that reminder time for noon so that you can check out not just what we're saying about the sermons, but other volunteers, other e-group leaders from our church and their kind of takeaways. So
love different perspectives.
I'm excited about it. We're still going to have conversations on here, so stay tuned for that. But I'm really excited to just go through highlights with all of you as well. So have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.
Thanks, Matt, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we will see you on Instagram Live.